Cascade is here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today I will show you the top 3 best Void Gauntlet builds for PvP and PvE in New World. So for each and every single build, I will explain what attributes and perks you want to have, then what gems and specific gear you want to use to get out your stats as much damage and healing as possible. Then as well I will show you the best gameplay of me using different weapons, so you would know which abilities you want to use first on your enemies or your teammates and much more. So if all this sounds interesting to you, then let's get right into it. So then, moving over to the first build, which is the Void Gauntlet and Ice Gauntlet, and these are the attributes you want to have. So first things first, no matter from which level you start using this build, you first of all want to get your intelligence to 150, and then start building your constitution. And around level 60, you should have 250 intelligence, 50 focus and 100 constitution. And lastly, for your gear, you want to go with the medium category. And the best gear setup is to have medium helmet, heavy chest piece, light gloves, heavy pants and light boots. And this will give you 22.9 kg weight, which is exactly just below the heavyweight category. So then, moving over to the first weapon, which is the Void Gauntlet, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all, you want to unlock the first ability called the Void Blade, and then get these 3 perks. Then afterwards, unlock the second ability called the Petrifying Scream, and then unlock the next 2 perks to him as well. Then now let's move over to the other side and unlock the last third ability called the Orb of Decay. And then get all these 3 perks, and that's it. Okay, and now let's move over to the second weapon, which is the Ice Gauntlet, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all, you want to unlock all these 3 perks, and then the first ability called the Ice Storm, and then get these 3 perks. Then from here, now let's move over to the other side and unlock this 1 perk, and then the second ability called the Ice Shower, and then unlock the next perk to him as well. And lastly, unlock the last third ability with the next perk. And now from this point, you'll feel free to use your points in whatever order you like. Okay, so now let's go over to the gameplay, where I will show you the best way to play this build. So first of all, for the Void Gauntlet, we have the first Q ability called the Void Blade. And after activating, you can basically get a Void Dagger, which you can use like any other melee weapon. And by using auto attacks, not only you will do a lot of damage, but as well reduce your enemy's damage absorption. Then the second ability is called the Petrifying Scream, which when using will deal damage, stagger and root enemies in front of you for 2 seconds. And lastly, we have the third ability, called the Orb of Decay, and you can fire this orb which can go through your enemies, and each enemy that it hits, it will deal decent damage and reduce their damage absorption. And then later, that orb will come back and heal your nearby teammates and yourself. And lastly, if you hold the left mouse button, then you can get your mana back, but it will remove your health. So for this specific build, I will definitely not recommend to use this mechanic. So now let's move over to the second weapon, which is the Ice Gauntlet, and your Q spell is called the Ice Storm, which all enemies standing in it will get damaged and slowed. And the more enemies you hit, the higher damage you will get. Then your R ability is called the Ice Shower, which when using will create an ice wall, and if your enemies go through it, it will stun them. And then lastly, we have the last third ability, which is basically like an ice block, which by using you put yourself in a block where you cannot take any damage. And of course you can go out of that ice block by pressing the same F key, or instead press the left mouse button and make it explode and do even more damage to the enemies. So as far as your ability combinations go, you want to use the Ice Gauntlet or Void Gauntlet depending on which weapon does more damage per normal attacks. In my case, Ice Gauntlet does more per hit, so you want to use your Ice Gauntlet and from a distance hit your enemies with normal attacks. Then when he gets close to you, activate your Ice Storm ability and go Ice Block. Then when your abilities run out or the enemy leaves the Ice Storm, explode the ice block. And now switch to the Void Gauntlet and activate your Void Blade ability, and keep on using auto attacks plus the R and F ability to stun the enemy and reduce his damage absorption. And lastly, if you ever get in trouble or you're fighting multiple players, then switch to the Ice Gauntlet and use your Ice Shower ability to stun the enemy or make a wall which the enemy cannot go through. And lastly, if you want to play this build and not run out of mana constantly, then you will want to use mana potions and keep on using your medium dodge, because each dodge will give you 10 mana as well. So keep on using your dodge rolls for the extra mana and plus 15% damage that the gems we have chosen will give to us, as long as we don't have 100% stamina. And with all this said, now let's go over my final conclusions for this build. This Void Gauntlet and Ice Gauntlet weapon combination is very good for group and solo PvP and as well PvE. Just of course remember to keep on using mana potions, because this build is very mana hungry. And then lastly, for the Void Gauntlet and Ice Gauntlet, you want to use the Opal gem. And then for all of your gear, get the Enix gems, and that's about it. So if you want to do a lot of damage as a mage, then this is the build for you, so enjoy! So then moving over to the second build, which is the hybrid healer slash DPS build. And for the weapons, we want to use the one and only Void Gauntlet and Life Staff. And these are the attributes you want to have. So first things first, if you start from level 0, you want to get your focus to 150 and then start building your constitution. And around level 60, you should have 250 focus, 50 intelligence and 100 constitution. And if you really don't care about damage and you want to go full healer support build, then go with the 300 focus and 100 constitution. And lastly, again for your gear, you want to go with the medium category. And the best gear setup is to have medium helmet, heavy chest piece, light gloves, heavy pants and light boots. So then moving over to the first weapon, which is the Void Gauntlet, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all, you want to unlock the first ability called the Void Blade and then get these 3 perks. Then afterwards unlock the second ability called the Oblivion and then unlock the next perk to him as well. Then now let's move over to the other side and unlock the last third ability, which is called the Orb of Decay, and then get all these 3 perks, and that's it. So then let's go over to the second weapon, which is the Life Staff, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all, you want to unlock this perk and then the first ability called the Sacred Ground, and then afterwards unlock all these 5 perks. Then now let's go over to the other side and unlock this one perk, and then the second ability called the Beacon, and then get these 2 perks. Then lastly unlock the last third ability called the Light's Embrace, and then get these 2 perks as well. And now from this point, you'll feel free to spend your points in whatever order you like. Okay, so now let's go over to the gameplay, where I will show you the best way to play this build. So first of all, for the Void Gauntlet, we have the first Q ability called the Void Blade. And after activating, you basically get a Void Dagger, which you can use like any other melee weapon. And by using auto attacks, not only you will do a lot of damage, but as well reduce your enemy's damage absorption. Then the second ability is called the Oblivion, which creates a circle around you and your teammates inside the circle will get 20% damage increase. But on the other hand, your enemy standing in a circle will get their damage reduced 5%, which can stack up to 3 times, which means that enemies in the circle will do 15% less damage. And lastly, we have the third ability called the Orb of Decay, and you can fire this orb which can go through your enemies. And each enemy that it hits, it will deal decent damage and reduce their damage absorption. And then later, that orb will come back and heal your nearby teammates and yourself. And lastly, like I explained in the previous build, you can hold the right mouse button and you can gain more mana, but in exchange, your health will go down. This is the only build that I would recommend to use it in. So if you're standing in your own healing circle and you really need more mana and your mana potions are on cooldown, then hold your right mouse button for a second or two. So then for the second weapon, we have the Life Staff, and your Q ability is called the Sacred Ground, which you have to point and select the area you want to place it in, and then cast it for a split second. Then the R ability is called the Light's Embrace, and it basically works the same way, just for a single target. And lastly, we have the F ability called Beacon, which you can just aim and it places a huge circle on the ground. And if you target a player, you can attach the spell to him specifically. So instead of the circle being on the ground, it will be attached to a player, making the spell very useful in expeditions and group PvP. So this build's main objective is to heal your teammates, but at the same time support them with extra damage increase. So the way you want to use this build is first of all use your Life Staff and use all the 3 healing spells. I prefer to use the Beacon and then the Light's Embrace ability, and this way my healing is increased, and with the low Light's Embrace cooldown I can spam it every 2 to 3 seconds. And on the grouped up enemies I use the Sacred Ground ability, and specifically to heal myself or a specific target I use the Light's Embrace ability, and to select myself I hold the control button and then activate the spell. And then when your teammates call out to give them extra damage, switch to the Void Gauntlet and use the Oblivion spell and give them extra damage. Then if there's a call to go on enemy's point or you get attacked, then while still using the Void Gauntlet, activate the Void Blade spell and turn your ranged weapon into a melee weapon, and keep on using your auto attacks plus the Orb of Decay, and apply to the enemies even more damage plus heal yourself and your teammates. So my suggestion is to use Life Staff for auto attacks and all abilities, and then the Void Gauntlet for only abilities, because the Life Staff damage is a lot higher, and that's about it. So then for my last and final conclusions for this build, this Void Gauntlet and Life Staff weapon combination is very strong and is definitely the new meta for healers. And lastly, for the Void Gauntlet and Life Staff, you want to use the Diamond Gem, and then for all of your gear, rings, amulets and everything else, use the Enix Gems. And to capitalize on both of the Diamond Gems, don't forget as a healer to always stay at 100% health, so then your plus 15% to heals and damage would be increased. So in a quick summary, if you're looking to try out and play the new Void Gauntlet and you want to deal damage but at the same time support the rest of your teammates, then this is the best hybrid healer build for you, so have fun. So then moving over to the last and final build, which is the Void Gauntlet and Sword with Shield. And these are the attributes you want to have. So first things first, if you start from level 0, you want to get your focus to 150 and then start building your constitution. And around level 60, you should have 200 focus and 200 constitution. And lastly, for your gear, you want to go with full heavy armor and you have to use a shield as well. So then moving over to the first weapon, which is the Void Gauntlet, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first of all, you want to unlock the first ability called the Void Blade and then get these 3 perks. Then afterwards, unlock the second ability called the Petrifying Scream and then unlock the next 2 perks to him as well. Then now let's move over to the other side and unlock the last third ability called the Orb of Decay and then get these 3 perks, and that's it. Again, like in the previous builds, you want to use mana potions as well. So then for the second weapon, we have the best tanking weapon, aka the sword, and these are the weapon masteries you want to have. So first things first, right out from the start you want to unlock all these 3 abilities called the Shield Rush, Shield Bash and Defiant Stance. And then afterwards get all these 5 perks. Then after you have unlocked those perks, you want to unlock these 3 more perks. And yes, the way I said it, you should unlock the first 5 perks and then only the other 3 perks. And by doing like this, it will give you a slight advantage than just normally unlocking normal perks and abilities in whatever order you want. And then lastly, let's move over to the left side and get these 3 perks, and that's it. Now again, you can unlock all the other perks in whatever way you like. Okay, so now let's go over to the gameplay, where I will show you the best way to play this build. And as we already have looked into all the same abilities in the first build, so we'll skip the Void Gauntlet for now and we will go straight for the second weapon, which is the sword. And for your Q spell, we have the Shield Rush ability. And the spell makes your character run very fast for 5 meters. And if you hit the target while running, he will get knocked back. Then our second ability is called the Shield Bash, which when using will deal a bit of damage and then stun your enemy in front of you for 2 seconds. And if you're using this ability in PvE, you can generate threat level, and as a tank, pull all mobs on you. And then lastly, we have the third ability called the Defiant Stance, which you can activate, and for the next 8 seconds your resistance is increased. Or in PvE as well, you can activate the spell and increase your threat level, which will make all the mobs target you. So like you can see, not only all these spells will stun and knock back our enemies, but as well they're useful in PvE. So this build is all around a good choice for all activities in the game. So then the best way to attack a player is first of all use your sword and shield, and while blocking move to the target. Then when you are close enough, use your Shield Rush and knock the enemy back. Then when he gets back up, stun him with the Shield Bash, and now switch to the Void Gauntlet and activate the Void Blade ability and keep on auto attacking the enemy while using both F and R abilities. Then lastly, to protect yourself, I always save it for later, but if a lot of damage is incoming, then switch to the sword and use your Defiant Stance ability, and all of your resistance will be increased for 30%. So just remember that as a tank, you want to use the Void Gauntlet to do a bunch of damage from afar, or even you can use it to pull mobs from very far distance in PvE, and you won't have to run to anywhere. And then on the other hand, you can switch to the sword and shield and be a real tank. So with all this said, now let's go over my final conclusions for this build. This Void Gauntlet and Sword with Shield weapon combination is very strong for group PvP as well PvE. Just of course remember to keep on using mana potions, because this build and every other build with Void Gauntlet is very mana hungry. And then last but not the least, for the Void Gauntlet you want to use the Sapphire Gem, and then for your sword use the Amber Gem, and for all of your gear get the Enix Gems, and that's about it. And as we chose to go with the Amber Gem to make the sword go from strength attribute to now to scale with focus, and by doing that we increase our damage, and at the same time we don't have to spend any points in strength category. So if you're looking for a new and strong tank build, then this is the build for you, so don't forget to enjoy. And that's about it. So I really do appreciate everyone for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, feedback or other good Void Gauntlet builds that you would like to see in the next video, then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and you won't miss any more amazing content from me. With all this said, you have an amazing day and I'll catch you in my next video. So take it easy, peace.